Putin's Russia continues to run rampant over international norms, meddle in democratic elections, destabilize the world. Russia has violated the sovereignty of Ukraine, interfered in our elections, the Brexit vote, propped up the brutal Assad regime, and implicated in nerve agent attacks on the soil of our closest ally. And yet the Trump administration proposes reducing sanctions on Putin and his cronies. Show me the behavior from Vladimir Putin that warrants such relief. I can't think of any. I'll bet 90% of all Americans can't think of any. So let me be clear. A vote against this resolution, a vote to not allow us to proceed, is a vote to go easy on President Putin and his oligarchs.
We knew that Senator Chuck Schumer of New York had a plan to try to block the Trump administration from dropping sanctions against companies connected with this Putin-allied Russian oligarch, Oleg Deripaska, who's been sanctioned in this country.
Anyways.
Bill that allows the minority leader.
So, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever it is, wherever you are, and welcome back to the Easy Reefers Fish Room here. Where, I'm just catching up on tonight's Rachel Maddow broadcast, which, you know, for a while it seems they've been content to sort of steal the show, as it were. Just to capitalize on the popularity of even the Russian reports, to some extent. Unless they're really juicy. They've always kind of suppressed those. But they've been, you know, doing the monetized side uploading thing where they steal 80%, 90% of the would-be views that MSNBC would otherwise be getting paid for. But sometimes it just winds up being not worth it, you know? Just winds up being a little contrary to their own interest overall. And you know, it's not like there's any new information that's come out. This isn't one of those things. This isn't one of the usual, yeah, monetized site uploaders. Then there's a big breaking bombshell news story, and then, oh look, they're missing tonight, and then they come back the next day. This is different. There hasn't particularly been any one thing today that wasn't a thing yesterday. But it's starting to settle in today. And they're like, woo, this is getting a life of its own, as the truth tends to do. We need to pull the plug on this shit. Sorry to stop speaking while I mesmerize myself with the flame from the lighter. That's not actually what's going on. I just had another probably multi-million-dollar idea. Oh, let me just get one or two things off the ground so I can act on all these fucking ideas I have. Okay, we just gotta go back here with the phone stuff. Where's the phone stuff? Phone stuff. Phone stuff. Hope that didn't show up. Oh yeah, let me give it away so people know to fucking go back and pause it. Nah, you wouldn't figure it out from a blur. Anyways. One second. Alright, I'm done. Had to get that out. So anyways, Schumer managed to get 11 Republicans to vote to not allow special treatment for fucking Oleg Deripaska, to overturn the Trump administration's release of sanctions. You know, the ones that they waited over a year to implement? Yeah, those. They keep saying Congress passed them 2 years ago. Yeah, but they didn't get fucking implemented. Didn't they pass the bill and then have to pass another bill to set a deadline for the bill or something like that? But I remember they started actually using the impeach word, asking the fucking Congress people and the senators finally about impeachment. Took long enough for the fucking reporters to be aware of facts. Let's see what old Chuck Schumer has to say.
Away from telling Vladimir Putin he can't run the show here in the United States, no matter what the Trump administration does. You know, Rachel, on the floor today, Leader McConnell said Putin's a thug. Well, I believe that. But if you believe that, if our Republican friends believe that, they should be voting with us, not just the 11, but more McConnell himself. We cannot let Putin go just free here after all the bad things he's done. And one other thing that compounds this loosening of sanctions against Putin, against Deripaska's companies, comes right on the heels of it being revealed that the special prosecutor has new evidence of the relationship between Manafort and Putin. Deripaska and Manafort have a close relationship. Deripaska and Kalimnik, the fellow who was at the hotel meeting with Jared and Manafort and the others, has a close relationship. The timing is not coincidental. So to make a strong stand here is really, really important.
Do you think that you've got another potential, another couple of Republican votes that might get you to that 60 vote threshold tomorrow?
Well, I know that there were a whole bunch of Republicans who wanted to vote yes, and McConnell and some of his leadership put a lot of pressure on them to vote no. But now that I think they've seen that 11 others have voted this way, yeah, I think we have a real shot.
You know, the timing on this is remarkable. As you say,
Yeah.
in the context of the Mueller investigation, we do have a lot of dangling threads when it comes to Deripaska, his involvement in the Manafort case, the question of whether or not Deripaska is an important part of Manafort, and the core question of whether there was collusion between the Trump campaign and the Russian government. We've also had a couple of really disturbing revelations in the open source press in the past couple of days. The New York Times reporting that the FBI...
By the way, this is fair use because she's interviewing a sitting United States senator. So there's no copyrightability to this.
A counterintelligence investigation into whether the president was working for the Russian government as president. The Washington Post reporting this weekend that the president went so far as to confiscate the notes from his own translator when speaking with Vladimir Putin. The Times last night reporting that the president has told administration officials over the past year that he wants to withdraw the U.S. from NATO, which of course is Putin's greatest dream. Are those sort of creating a new climate in terms of the way both Democrats and Republicans are thinking about the urgency of this situation when it comes to the president in Russia?
Well, I think it is creating a new climate. There's just so much, and it all seems to be woven into a web related to Putin's manipulation of our own government, into Trump's acquiescence and bootlicking of whatever Putin seems to want, and in terms of the Mueller investigation because of the ties between Putin, Deripaska, Manafort, and Kalimnik. So all of this seems to be parts of one large piece, and it is changing people's minds here in Washington. I think that's absolutely right.
And Senator, to that end, do you think that the issue of the Mueller investigation is being handled adequately, is being handled in a way that reassures you at all when it comes to the nomination of William Barr to be the next Attorney General?
Well, I have a lot of faith in Mueller. I don't have much faith in Barr. I've come out against him getting this job. Why? Because when you have a president like Donald Trump, who has so little respect for the rule of law, so little respect for the Justice Department as a rule of law body, and seems to want to manipulate justice to help him and hurt his friends, you need an Attorney General who unequivocally will state certain things, and Barr fudged them all. It sounded nice what he said, but there are a lot of loopholes in it. So, for instance, he says he's for openness and he's for transparency. He didn't answer the question directly. Will you allow the entire Mueller report to be made public to the Congress and to the American public?
Yeah, but if he
Or
did,
when
he'd
he
get
says,
his
"I
fucking
believe
nominee
Mueller should
rescinded.
go forward."
Nomination
Well, that's
rescinded.
not enough with the Trump presidency. You have to ask him and get a yes answer. Will you not interfere in any way with the Mueller investigation? So I'm worried about Barr. I think Trump didn't choose him just because he's a fine lawyer. I think he chose him because of his views on presidential power, and I think that given who Trump is, that Barr, unless Barr unequivocally with no loopholes answers the kind of questions I just mentioned, he shouldn't be Attorney General. I'll vote against him.
Senator Schumer, I have one other question I want to ask you, which is about the shutdown. Can you stick with us for just one moment? We'll come back and talk about that.
Sure.
All right. Shutdown is about to enter day 26. Chuck Schumer is the leader of the Democrats in the Senate, intimately involved in this fight. Stay with us. We'll be back with Senator Schumer right after this.
Two.
We are heading out of day 25 into day 26. This is by far the longest government shutdown in history. The pain is real already for federal government workers, and it's starting to have a ripple effect across lots of different sectors of the country and our economy. Do you have any sense of how this is going to end? If you were betting on how this would end, how would you bet?
Well, I'll tell you this: the harm that that's being done to people is just awful. In so many different ways. People can't get their medicines who are sick because of FDA and even DEA restrictions. I met a fire dispatcher who's kicked out of his own home. He's rented because he was going to move into a house where he had got signed up for a mortgage, but he can't get approval for the mortgage. Story after story after story. It's mounting. And what we're finding is our Republican colleagues are feeling the heat. I think we've made it clear that this is a Trump shutdown. The American people, by a 2 and 3 to 1 margin, blame Trump and not the Democrats. What's very interesting here is even some Republicans who are for the wall don't want the government shut down over the wall. A Quinnipiac poll, very interesting. 39% of Republicans, that's high, said Trump shouldn't shut down the government over the wall. So our Republicans are feeling the heat. Trump some, but he seems impervious to people's pain, which is just disgusting. But our Republican colleagues in the Senate are, and more of them are beginning to scramble. And if enough of them do and put pressure on McConnell to bring the 6 bills that the House passed to the floor, we can get the government open. I think Trump thought that we Democrats would crack. We've been united. You saw today that even those moderate Democrats who were invited to the White House justifiably, correctly said no, because they don't want to just be window dressing. We've seen Trump stomp out of meetings because he's not getting what he wants. And the public is so strongly on our side that our view is that Republicans are soon going to be putting enough pressure on Trump to either go around him or force him to change. We have to stay strong. So far, so good.
In terms of going around him, you mean passing spending bills by a veto-proof majority?
Well, certainly sending them to him and challenging him to veto, and maybe even by a veto-proof majority. As you may remember, the bill to reopen the government for 30 days passed the Senate unanimously when McConnell put it on the floor. Ryan, who was then Speaker, wouldn't put it on the floor because Trump said no, but all the Republicans supported that. So yes, I think there's even a chance that we could get a veto-proof majority on a simple resolution to reopen the government. And our argument is simple. Open the government. 3 words to Trump, McConnell, and the Republicans. Open the government. Then we can debate border security. They have a different view than we do. We're all for border security, but don't hold millions of Americans who are feeling real pain hostage.
Chuck Schumer, the Democratic leader in the United States Senate. Sir, I know you are very busy, especially on days like this. Thanks for making time for us.
Thanks, Rachel.
All right. Much more to get to tonight, including Senator Amy Klobuchar, who joins us live. Coming up next. Stay with us.
I really like what Rachel Maddow said earlier. She was talking about the different ways Trump was doing Russia favors, talking about how he was shutting down NATO and all that good stuff. And what's next? Is he just going to shut down the government? Yeah. Good job, Rachel. The American people need to be gently guided towards the realization of just how fucked up how many people have been acting lately. Now, one of the keys to doing this successfully in a way that unifies people is, and this must be done in a way that separates Islam from Islamic extremism, of course, or Muslims from Islamic extremism. But what's crucial is making people aware of the historical fomentation on the part of the Soviet Union and Putin's Russia of Islamic extremism, thereby arguing to the actual neoconservatives or conservatives that they should not be in line with the Neo-Confederates, whatever, because to do so is essentially acquiescing to Islamic extremism. Those entities are one and the same, and they have only posed to be Christian white people so that they could destroy us. Now, whether or not you believe that is irrelevant. It's true, but I don't even need to prove it to you. for you to at least be able to see the tactical power and effectiveness of that argument. It happens to be the truth, however. It's funny how the truth happens to be the most powerful weapon on our side. The universe is trying to tell you something. So yes, we have a longing for the days. I mean, a real longing for the days when Republicans were just assholes who wanted to spend too much on the military, so they pretended to care about abortion. You know what? That would have been fine. Let's just go back to that. That was wonderful. That is a hell of a lot better. Neocons are a hell of a lot better than fucking Neo-Confederates. These people literally have taken small government down to no government. And they don't even realize, we're doing Russia's bidding. I don't know what's worse. That they could be stupid enough not to realize that, or that they do realize it. Oh, this is hilarious. Fox Business is doing a story. There are plenty of Democrats who feel the left has hijacked the attention of the party, whatever the fuck. I don't even care what they're going to say, but you get the point. And they're showing the Cortez chick. Could it be because y'all guys won't talk about anything but the Cortez chick that maybe you might see the Democrats are feeling that way? Huh? Morons. Anyway, so Neo-Confederate, apparently a word that will get the notifications to fail to send out. But yeah, a couple of non-monetized site uploaders tonight. But what's interesting is the past several weeks now, there's been like live streams. You know, like since I first, not first, but since I recently brought back the issue of site uploaders and monetization, since I started videotaping the commercials playing again and shit. Since about then, they've been doing live streams too. But tonight, nothing. All that came out with this Manafort evidence filing. Mueller made an evidentiary filing in the Manafort case. But it's all blacked out. Nobody can see anything that fucking happened. But at least we're seeing evidence of, you know, in some ways what must back up the accidental de-redaction of the communication between Manafort and Konstantin Kilimnik. Kilimnik.
Become certified to take.
No. Plant-based nutrition. Okay. You're gonna skip that ad now. Apparently, General Motors has come out with a new edition of the Humvee. I wonder how often they will be driving around with one headlight out. So yeah, they've built a new Humvee. That kind of looks horrible, really. It looks more like a fucking urban assault vehicle. And I just... Have they learned nothing? Just in all these years, have they learned nothing about... I mean, I guess the primary purpose must be just a Jeep. But just like, is there really nothing else they can do than just a box with wheels on it and lights and a windshield? You know, like... Here, let me get this to where it's in frame and I'll show it. Alright, fully in frame, not like panning across, you fuckers. Alright, let me go back to the beginning. I hate that, the way they show you the vehicle one fucking time in the beginning of these videos, and then it's just panning over small sections of the shit for the whole rest of the video. It's like, Jesus, are you fucking trying to hide the damn thing? Anyway, let's see if I can do this without having to get up. Alright. So it looks like a cross between a Humvee, an Up Armor Humvee, and one of those little toys that you had back in the 80s, the little Hot Wheels model that was like a little off-road Jeep thing. It was like a little more aerodynamic. Kind of looks like a little bit like that in the front. Like they made a new front grill that leaned back a little. And then they made the hood shorter. But somehow they've managed to do all that work to the frame and the windshield without just leaning it the fuck back a little bit. Like, I don't get that. Why wouldn't you just lean it back a little bit? The windshield. Lean it back, put a visor over, I don't know, something. See, you know, when it comes to projectiles, the more perpendicular the surface, the greater the chance of it being penetrated. The closer to a 45-degree angle, or beyond, the better chance of it just deflecting, just bouncing right off. And then it can go, you know, kill a fucking pigeon or something. Whatever. I'm not sure how I feel about the wheel package either. Like, if you're going to keep that kind of a enclosed hubcap in order to keep sand out of there or whatever, you need to have some sort of fanning mechanism to make sure all that fucking metal stays cool as hell. Because otherwise, that heavy ass thing right there isn't going to stop very many times in a row. So somebody's going to be in a situation where they got to run and do a couple of maneuvers. And they're going to be able to hit the brakes a couple times and get a couple maneuvers out the way. Then they're going to hit the brakes again and just keep going straight. Because them fucking brakes overheated. But I'm just sitting there looking at the places where the people sit. And it's nothing but perpendicular. Really? Nothing but fucking perpendicular? You can't angle that fucking impact just a little bit? You know, like, there's nobody's head right there. Lean this fucking pillar in, man. Lean that fucking pillar in. That way if somebody's shooting from this way, maybe the fucking bullets will bounce up in the air. The closer you can make anything to a pyramid, the longer it'll fucking last in a disaster. Okay, that's just the general rule. You know how I know that? Because the pyramids are the oldest fucking things we have as people. And all the modern debates and discovery about there's different things here that have been older than the pyramids. Older than the pyramids. No, nothing's fucking older than the pyramids. You know, fucking the pyramids are older than the pyramids. Like, how long have we been knowing that that was the oldest shit there? And then suddenly, nowadays, we get to decide that we found shit older? No. No. People are just trying to get attention. Learn to play the fucking saxophone or something. Yeah, come on. Pick up a fiddle. Learn to juggle. Learn to juggle some baby food bottles. Or perhaps some entire babies. Anyway. This fucking thing out of there. But they're just making me want to draw a truck. That's all that's doing. Unfortunately, my battery is making me want to plug the damn camera in. Alright. So this concludes the fancy graphic presentation portion of tonight's broadcast. Welcome, whoever is watching. Tonight we've been talking about the days when chickens have lips. And turkeys say no thank you. But you know what's funny? Jokes. Yeah, jokes are funny. Anyway, so it was rather gratifying, yet at the same time, I feel like somebody owes me money. Hearing Rachel Maddow finally mirror the basically the rhetorical talking points of the Lost Begotten channel circa fucking late 2015, early 2016. They're actually talking about Western democracy. It seems as though they've maybe sort of second-guessed themselves when allowing Western civilization to fall into the same crowd as white nationalism. And they've been several times on the channel of MSNBC today. Several people have used the phrase Western democracy. Yes, Western civilization, exactly. That's what's at stake. That pesky little habit of quote-unquote white people of effectively governing themselves. But until the Horde came, the simple fact is, Europe was not entirely quote-unquote white. But anyways, as much as I'd love to get into another vast history lesson, I'm just a little too tired for that tonight. But suffice to say, there's nothing racist about taking pride in what Rome was, what the West has been, and what America is. Because it is now what it has always strived to be. A place where men can be free. And where there are no woe men, but ladies. But here we are in the era where we've been brainwashed enough to come into a society in which, even I've come to accept the idea that my bitches is a term of endearment. Like women will call, that's my bitch right there. Even some guys can get away with that. Especially, like me, if you have lesbian friends. Anyways. Speaking of lesbian friends, I bet you that new Jeep would be very popular among lesbians. If it was compact enough. It can't be oversized, Lesbians like some cool shit, but they're not impractical. They're not men. For fuck's sake. They're not stupid. But yeah. What an interesting little contraption this new little Jeep thing is. The front end kind of looks like it's trying to be one of the Jeep Liberties. And another thing about it that's horrible. The brush guard, the front, the big bars on the front, they block the spread of the fucking headlights from this angle, from the angle that it's being viewed at right here. Look at that. Fucking brush guard is just blocking the damn headlights. That guy don't care. But I care. That is just a monstrosity. Like, why? Why can't there be smart people designing things? Speaking of designing things, I'm designing a little assembly plant, and it's adorable. Literally, just a little tiny little assembly plant that, of course, can be expanded because modular buildings. That's why. I keep finding more modular wall assembly kind of Lego building companies. Very nice, very nice. But none of them keep it simple enough. None of them, I don't know, down to earth enough, practical enough, marketable enough. Many with just names that are too damn hard to remember. Don't know how to describe their own product. Or they've named it after themselves and they just have a generic fucking name. But anyways, so my little factory building is going to be more like an assembly circle than an assembly line. An assembly square, yeah, really an assembly square. Because I have to make everything as cheap as possible. It's just that fucking simple. Anyway. I really like, I just see modern buildings and fucking architecture, and it just looks so wasteful and arrogant and stupid. It's just over designed. And like, as contrary to logic as this might sound, no matter how big your company gets, no matter how successful your business model is, no matter how much money it's worth and all that good stuff, design everything to possibly fail. And not like outright failure, not abject failure, you know, not like defeat, but design things to live out their purpose and then be shut down and moved on from, you know. You shouldn't make monuments of things that should be practical, because then that expense winds up going into a culture of extravagance that stems from that example set by, say for instance, the giant Google facility. They put all that money into that giant fucking facility, and they're gonna get torn apart for antitrust violations. And then it's gonna be realized that they essentially don't even fucking have a product. All they are is a series of trust violations. So when you design a factory or office space, just like the way you design any house, design it to be multiple use. Design it to be biodegradable, maybe. But don't act like a particular, especially a very temporary type of business, like a tech business, for fuck's sake, is going to be a permanent thing and needs some sort of a monstrosity of a monument to itself just to achieve operational status. I mean, that's what you should be focused on, is your fucking operations, not like making other companies feel bad for not being you, you know, like Like, that's not work environment. That's it's like Trumpism, the tech company. No, but I'm sure they'll stage another women's march soon. A little half-hearted demonstration. Where a bunch of people walk slowly through the parking lot before returning back to work. Anyways. Shake it like a Polaroid picture. So, just hanging out with nobody watching. I wonder, has it been too long since I mentioned that, all things considered, those who know the level of wisdom and insight that I offer on this channel would easily tell you, sitting through the silence is usually well worth it. But what would be a lot more efficient as far as the use of humanity, considering the utility of my presence here, would be for people to actually be able to see the fucking broadcast and ask me questions and shit. Who'd have thunk it? But I guess I am getting pretty tired. Might have to sleep somewhat of a normal schedule just for the night. Or I might put on the video game and fucking have a second win. I don't know. What it all boils down to is this cup of coffee ain't really doing it for me. And I don't feel like making more. But we've now had a former lead official at the Department of Justice that was serving only a year ago, and then former CIA director Paul Brenner agree that Donald Trump is a clear and present danger to the United States. But it's Bill Maher who gets to take credit for saying that, yeah, he was a traitor. It's funny, I said that before the fucking election. I said that before he won the primary. In fact, just about every damn thing people are finally learning The one place you fucking heard it first was right here. Now, obviously, I don't track the details as far as the finances and all that good stuff goes. That's all very fascinating to learn about. I enjoy learning about that. And I'm not claiming I said any of that. I'm talking about the motherfucker was working for Russia because he was participating in their ongoing psychological warfare campaign against this country. He was repeating their propaganda. He was participating in their attacks on America, not on the Democrats, okay? People lost track of how to separate that because of just how many fucking Republicans betrayed us and how much of the Republican message, the Trumpist message, was essentially long-term Russian propaganda talking points that went unrecognized, unregistered, because we didn't really understand the value of capitalism, the value of democracy, the value of Western civilization, or the danger that these fuckers pose. Anyways. People really need to be, and maybe slowly, but they need to learn. They need to be exposed to and be made to grasp the lack of truth, the lack of perspective that has been forced down their throat for the past 30 years. And how many different things like libertarianism and socialism are contrary to our ability to exist. We need to get real about this shit and not play around with fucking stuff that sounds good to fucking teenagers and let that carry on into adulthood and continue to entertain them like they're serious fucking points of view. They're not. It's propaganda gone wild. And we need to learn how to call it out for what it is. I'm not being paranoid. I'm not being hyperbolic. These are random little fucking fires that have consumed entire regions. And it just started with a spark of Russian propaganda and took its own form. But you have to deconstruct the talking points today, the basic economic and sociology of the platforms, and go back and find every time there's been Russians in them there hills, you know? Communists of some sort. Or neo-fascists these days. Well, namely just the fucking plain out Russian mob these days. But only by following the people who are the marginalizers who happen to be Bernie supporters. You know, the normalizers who gave Trump too much attention to begin with, or the Republicans who just seem to think obstruction and accusing the fucking FBI is okay. Take all these people and track their propaganda talking points back over the past 30 years, or however long they've been in public office, and see how here and there their communistic, socialistic, or anarchistic, in the case of many Republicans, just plain out anarchistic talking points have mirrored the objectives of the Russian Federation. And now it's come down to the point where they've jaded us to the point where we've either gotten paranoid of our own government or just hate paying taxes to it, and that's what makes you a Republican now. And now that they have us there, we're actually about to entertain a debate of whether or not we want to be in NATO. And just like Rachel Maddow said, dissolving NATO, you might as well just dissolve the United States. You're talking about, I mean, you might as well dissolve the United Nations while we're at it, because we're just headed towards a new fucking world war. The existence of NATO is what's kept the peace for all this time. Make no mistake. The only person who would ever want to dissolve NATO has the objective of destroying, of physically annihilating the United States. The only people who would ever want us to leave NATO have the objective of destroying, physically annihilating the United States of America. You can debate whether that's a good idea all you fucking want to. But don't be surprised if I don't show up and just fucking kick you in the face. Because, overruled. Bad idea. No. No. Not even fucking acceptable to consider. And there better not be one goddamn Louisiana politician to fucking entertain the idea. Or I might go beat the shit out of their entire fucking staff and just be proud to be arrested for a day. Because fuck this. Fuck these traitors. And if you're with them, fuck you too. Okay? That's all I have to say about that. Whoever watches this in the future, I hope you enjoyed my little rant and raving. And I think now's the time, if you're in this country, to call your local Congress people and tell them that's enough of tolerating these fucking traitors. Okay? You're either with America or you're against America. Period. It's about time we stop playing around with things that can affect whether or not our country continues to exist or is conquered. I mean, get real, people. Thanks for watching. Maybe, if anybody's allowed to see this. Google apparently wants us to be conquered, so they don't let anybody see my broadcasts.